Everyone thought Max was gone forever, lost near the Canadian border during a family vacation, thousands of miles from home. But what happened next left an entire town speechless. It was a warm spring morning in a sleepy little town nestled deep in the southern United States, the kind of place where everybody knows your name. The pace is slow, and the sun seems to hang just a little longer in the sky. The Benjamin family lived on a quiet street shaded by tall pecan trees, in a house that echoed with laughter, the occasional barking of a happy dog, and the hum of everyday life. Benjamin, a high school history teacher with a love for storytelling, and Amelia, a kind-hearted nurse known for her sweet tea and gentler wisdom, had one daughter, Evelyn. She was 8, bright-eyed, full of questions, and inseparable from Max, their 6-year-old golden-eyed Labrador retriever. Max was more than a dog, he was a family member. He waited at the bus stop with Evelyn every morning and sat beside her as she read books aloud in the evening. When she cried, Max would nuzzle her shoulder and stay by her side until the tears dried. It was a bond unspoken but unbreakable. That summer, the Benjamins had decided to take a road trip to Canada. Benjamin had always wanted to drive the Trans-Canada Highway, and Amelia thought it would be good for Evelyn to see more of the world. Max, of course, would be coming along, no questions asked. He had his own seat in the SUV, his favorite blanket, a chew toy, and his name tag freshly polished. The journey would stretch nearly 2,800 miles through piney woods, vast plains, and snow-capped mountains. It would be long, but it would be worth it. They were prepared, excited, and full of that particular joy that comes before adventure. They made it as far as the Canadian border, stopping at scenic overlooks, quiet lakes, and quaint roadside diners. One afternoon, just a few miles from the border, they pulled over at a rest stop. Thunderheads were beginning to roll in, and the air was heavy, carrying the scent of rain. A sudden crack of thunder, loud and sharp, startled Max. A delivery truck backfired at the same moment, and before anyone could react, Max bolted. Max, Evelyn screamed, chasing after him, but Benjamin caught her before she could run too far. The rest of the day blurred into a frantic search through the woods, along the roadside, calling his name until their voices went hoarse. Local authorities were contacted. Flyers were made and posted. Online forums lit up with photos and pleas. The family offered a reward, begged anyone who saw Max to call. Days turned into a week, then 2. There were a few sightings here, and then none confirmed. The family extended their stay, renting a motel room, hoping, praying. Eventually, reluctantly, they returned home. The car ride back was silent. At home, Evelyn cried every night. She would sit on the porch with Max's leash in her lap, whispering his name into the wind. Amelia tried to comfort her, but she'd turn away, quietly sobbing into her pillow. Benjamin spent hours combing through satellite maps and social media, trying to spot a trace of their boy. The house felt hollow. Max's bowl stayed in its place, untouched. His blanket still lay at the foot of Evelyn's bed. But somewhere, far from the quiet streets of that southern town, Max was still moving. He had wandered through forests that stretched into the sky, full of creaking pines and shadows that moved. He crossed rivers, sometimes swimming, sometimes walking across fallen logs slick with moss. He endured. When snow began to fall early in the mountains, he huddled beneath bushes or under broken sheds, shivering through the nights. During rainstorms, he drank from puddles and streams. In heat, he dug shallow holes in the dirt to keep cool. He scavenged when he could. A sandwich dropped from a passing truck. Leftovers tossed near dumpsters. Once, he managed to catch a rabbit, and another time, a small bird. But most days were hungry ones. His ribs began to show, and his golden coat turned dusty and matted. He faced threats to packs of wild dogs, snarling and territorial. One night, he barely escaped a coyote that chased him through a field. Another time, he narrowly avoided a trap set in a remote hunting area. Strangers appeared from time to time, some kind, offering food, water, even a ride. But Max wouldn't stay. No matter how hungry, no matter how tired, he'd sniff the air, listen to the wind, and keep going. There was something in him, deep and primal, that whispered, home. Each day, something stirred him forward, a scent, a shape, a flicker of memory. The echo of Evelyn's laughter, the feel of her little arms wrapped around his neck, the sound of Benjamin whistling for him, the clink of his leash. Max had never studied a map. He couldn't name a town, but he knew where his heart belonged, and he would not stop. Months passed. Then one morning, as dawn crept over the town, painting the sky with streaks of peach and gold, Benjamin stood in the kitchen pouring coffee. The house was quiet, except for the low rumble of the percolator. He heard a sound, faint scratching, then a whimper. At first, he froze. The sound came again. He set the mug down and hurried to the front door. When he opened it, he stood still for a moment, almost not trusting his eyes. There, on the porch, was a dog, a thin, filthy creature with matted fur and trembling legs. But in those eyes, those golden, gentle eyes, was something unmistakable. Max, Benjamin whispered. He dropped to his knees. Max let out a low whine, tail thumping weakly. Then he stumbled forward into Benjamin's arms. The commotion brought Evelyn flying down the hallway, her bare feet slapping the hardwood floor. "Daddy!" She skidded to a stop at the door, blinking in disbelief. "Max," her voice cracked, and then she ran through the doorway, across the porch, and wrapped her arms around him. Max licked her face, weakly, over and over, tail wagging harder now. Amelia appeared moments later, gasping and covering her mouth with trembling hands. They cried, all of them, right there on the porch. Neighbors peeked through curtains and stepped out in slippers, watching the reunion with wet eyes and disbelief. They rushed Max to the vet. He was underweight, dehydrated, had ticks, and sore pads, but somehow, miraculously, he had no serious injuries. The vet said he was lucky, or stubborn, or blessed. News spread quickly. The story made it into the local paper. Dog travels over 2,000 miles to find his way home. Then the story was picked up by a regional TV station. Soon after, it was shared online by a national outlet. People from across the country wrote letters, sent gifts, treats, and toys. Evelyn read each letter to Max as he lay curled beside her. Over the weeks that followed, Max regained his strength. His coat grew shiny again, and the light returned to his eyes. But something had changed in him. He stuck close, closer than ever. He followed Evelyn from room to room, lay beside her bed each night, and even waited outside the bathroom door. He had lost time. He wasn't about to lose it again. The Benjamin family grew even tighter in the months after Max's return. They had faced something together: loss, uncertainty, grief, and had been given back a piece of their hearts. Evelyn walked with a lightness in her step again. Benjamin smiled more. Amelia took more pictures. They hugged longer, spoke gentler. They cancelled their next big road trip. Instead, they spent weekends exploring nearby woods and parks, always with Max leading the way. Sometimes, at sunset, Evelyn would sit on the porch with Max's head in her lap and whisper, "Thank you for coming home." Max would close his eyes and sigh, the way dogs do when the world feels safe again. And that house on the quiet street, under the pecan trees, was full once more with laughter, with love, and the soft, steady rhythm of paws against hardwood floors. Some said it was impossible. Others called it a miracle. But anyone who has ever loved a dog, truly loved a dog, knows better. Max came home not because he could, but because he had to. Because sometimes love isn't just a feeling. It's a direction, a compass that points you home, no matter how far.